We heard from Giannis for the first time in nearly 3 weeks, and it seems like we've heard this story before. We dig into the details of what he had to say coming up next on this bonus episode of Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bucks. I am Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day, each and every day, and for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcasting network in the business. You can hear me on the Bucks Radio Network each and every game. You can find Camille on our Locked On NBA coverage and the Technical Foul podcast as well. If you missed it earlier today, we had the post-game breakdown of the Bucks' loss to the Toronto Raptors. But prior to the game, Camille, we heard from Giannis for the first time since that injury against the Detroit Pistons on December 3rd? So two plus weeks. I said it feels like we've heard this and seen this and experienced this before because, as we were talking prior to recording, we both kind of said, it gave vibes of a certain player that we've experienced the same thing with. I'm old enough to remember listening to all the post-game press conferences at the podium by a famed Packers quarterback, Brett Favre, where you would look at it and you'd say, man, So one of my jobs in the Packers radio network when I did that was cutting up those post-game audio. And you would see the file for Favre and like, man, this was like 32 minutes. And then you go back and count like, this was 6 questions. And he talked for, wow, these really went off and wide ranging. It just became meandering and a lot of word salad. And it starts somewhere. He doesn't know where it's going to finish. And it eventually ends up where the question was. I don't know if it was quite to that level, but I got a lot of those vibes. It was a lot of word salad in 25 minutes. It was a lot of somewhat direct questions. I don't mean that as a knock or anything against those who were there and asked them. But answers that kind of started where he was, I don't know if he was trying to kind of get them to drop their guard a little bit with the Target reference and telling Mariah, like, you don't need to go to Target every day. And even trying to relate to, like, maybe you go home and smoke a cigar and you go home and you do this. I do that. It just kind of went everywhere for 25 minutes, and it didn't provide any concrete information. I mean, I think we were coming in looking for, just give us an answer one way or another. Have you engaged in any conversations? How do you view your future on this team? What are your thoughts watching this season? There's a lot of reporting that these things happened. So care to elaborate? And instead, we just kind of got more of the same. It was kind of doubling down on my agents, I can't control them in any conversations that they have. And then in the very next sentence, you acknowledge my agents work for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the part, like that particular answer when he went on about that entire answer, he kind of bounced around in a few different areas, right? Where reading between the lines a little bit here, he seems like he is very kind of over the trade rumors and everything that comes with it. But at the same time, this could have been an opportunity to qualm them, like to really squash them. Like in training camp, when he came out there and he said, I hope this is the last time I have to talk about this season. I'm a Milwaukee Buck. I'm not thinking about anything else. I want to be here. It was a lot more definitive at that point than what we heard.
That part of it was. The rest of it was not at training camp.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. But at least he gave us at least something in that initial reaction of like, hey, this is where I feel we're moving on. But if I change my mind in 6-7 months, then I change my mind in 6-7 months, which I was like, relatable, can deal with that. But with all the noise that's been around Giannis this season, around like, oh, his agents reaching out, his representatives, and then hearing Chris Haynes come out and say like Giannis is saying he can't control what representatives say and what they do. And it's like, I get what you're saying in the sense of all adult human beings have control over what they do. But when someone works for you, there's a certain level of, I believe, lockstep that tends to go within that. Like, Giannis may not personally be having the conversations, but if his agents are exploring it, then it's something that's on the table. It wasn't necessarily ruled out. The way that Giannis talked in this presser, where he kind of said, "I'm locked in on the Bucks. Like, what does all this mean? Like, I'm not going to do my job." I don't think I've ever doubted that. Like, I know Giannis is going to give his all and making sure his body is right to make sure he can give everything he has on the court. But it seems like he really wants to win as we have continued to hurt. And I get that, but it's at the same point where it's like, I don't want to get to a point where it is like Brett Favre and you're just tired of it all. And then the relationship between the star and the fan base starts to fracture in ways. I don't want to see that happen with Giannis because he's been too valuable, too important, and means too much to the city for it to go that way. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see it devolve into that.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've said before, he is the greatest player in franchise history.
Yeah. Some argue it's Kareem. I personally still think it's Giannis because of the longevity attached to it.
Kareem reached 2 finals. Sure, I will give you that. But the importance of what Giannis brought to the team. And Kareem won, third year in the league for this team as an expansion franchise. They won a championship. There were sharks in the water. It was very real that this team may no longer be in Milwaukee if Giannis doesn't, not just Giannis, the ownership change and the investment in money and getting a new arena, but your interest is gone if there's no player to hang your hat on. And I know Giannis wasn't MVP caliber at the time that the arena plan passed, but the steady progression and to create and cultivate Bucks fans that did not exist because of this individual player. There was no interest. You know this.
Yep.
No interest in this team outside of Milwaukee. No one cared. You get to Madison, you get north in the state, you get west. It's the Packers and the Brewers. He changed that, where they at least, even if you're a casual, you're a casual. And I got to pay attention, and I know this Giannis guy, and I check the box scores. You didn't even have that before. So that and delivering a second championship, keeping your team at that level for a decade now, which, as we've seen, it's starting to fracture. But he is, and by the records, by the numbers, every statistical category and record that he is going to own, he is the greatest Buck in franchise history. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has had a better career outside of Milwaukee in full career, yes, but he's the greatest Buck in franchise history. So we've talked about loyalty that Giannis has to the organization. I do think it goes both ways, too, and that's the tricky part of all of this, in that if he doesn't have an answer, if he's uncertain, which we'll get to coming up in a second here, and he doesn't tell you, I want to be traded, they're not going to trade him.
Right.
Because of everything we've already talked about. How important he is financially. That's a cash cow for a group that didn't have it before. We knew what this was like in the 90s and the early 2000s. You were basketball Siberia. You didn't have national games. There was no interest. You weren't even a thought to play on Christmas Day. You get tourism revenue from people that are coming in to stay in your city, to buy tickets to your arena, to come there to watch Giannis specifically. You have a country of Greece that is invested in your team, and now Bucks fans. Everything that built up around the arena, too. Like, if we take all the economic impact into it, it is not even up for debate whether or not Giannis is the greatest player in franchise history because of things like the hotel that exists, the new arena, what's been built in Deer District that's out there now. That's all money you're walking away from if he's not here anymore. Like, what's the international dollar? Your TV, your local rights deal isn't what it currently is. You don't fetch as much demand there. And I know it's not great and it's going downhill for every team, but the interest isn't quite where it is. You're not getting fans that are coming in and making this a trip to see Giannis. You're losing out on jersey sales. You're not getting people going to that hotel as frequently and trying, we're going to go to a Bucks game and we're going to frequent these places outside of it. So it's a massive economic impact as a business decision. You can argue whether or not it's the right basketball decision. I get that. But a business decision, that is why they have no interest in trading him. That being said, too, if he says, you know what, I've thought about it and I would like to finish my career here, I think they owe it to him to do that and to say, okay, then we are going to make this work. But there is a give and take here if that's what we're doing. And I think that's the next part of it. So I want to get into that one of the other interesting things that he had to say about his conversations with teammates, and of course the bigger thing, the bigger concrete thing that came out of what he had to say yesterday, and that is his timeline for return. So we'll get into that coming up next. This season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun. Because every player has their bag, and with DoorDash, fans have one too. They keep your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. There's nights where your team stresses you out, and let DoorDash be that post-game therapy session. Sometimes you just need that sweet craving right now. Late night interviews hit, and suddenly you need something at midnight. Well, DoorDash is built exactly for that. When the group chat says pull up, DoorDash makes sure you show up prepared with anything you need, even the phone charger for that friend that's always stuck at 2%. From off to overtime, stay in your bag, order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season delivered right to your door. DoorDash in your bag all season long. Ever feel like you're just disappears each month? It can happen fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clear, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances, because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you, so you can save more on time and stress even less. They find subscriptions you forgot you were paying for and help you clean those up quickly. Offer all of your spending in one dashboard to make it easier to understand where that money is going. They even automatically build budgets on past spending and keeps you on track without overthinking it. So take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. So the give and take I want to get into, but let's just start with the other interesting thing that stood out to me in this. Everybody's running with the I can't control what my agents do, and we've shared our thoughts, and it is ridiculous to say that and then acknowledge a sentence later that your agents, at the end of the day, my agent works for me, right? But he was also asked about his teammates, and we heard again, distractions aren't good. Like, we want to keep that out of it. I don't focus on that. We don't want these distractions around us. There's a way to end the distractions, right? And we're not asking for even a definitive statement. Just say, like, no, I haven't asked for a trade. I'm not asking for a trade. I'm finishing the season with the Milwaukee Bucks. If we have to reevaluate things in the summer, then we do. But my focus is on how do we turn this around right now and get us back into the playoff picture. End of sentence. Like, yes, the question is still going to come up, but you have to do those types of things to at least put some water on the fire. We didn't hear that. What we did hear that was interesting was I've been approached by teammates who asked me about the reports because it might affect their own life and their own career. And I'm straight with them, whatever that answer may be. Whatever that answer may be. Yes. So does it change day to day?
It could. Who knows? And that's the thing. Like, it really does feel to me as if the reason that there is no definitive statement is because he's currently still unsure about what it is that he really wants. I think I've said it before. I'm not sure if me and you were just talking or if it was actually on air, but like, I never doubt or question the love that Giannis has for Milwaukee and for the Bucks. I don't think that if he does change his mind and he decides like, hey, actually, I want to be traded, I want out of Milwaukee, I don't think that that's a reflection on like how he feels about the city or the team as a whole. It's just like, I'm looking at the landscape right now.
I'm looking at us 11-17.
Yeah, like, I don't think I have a chance to win here, and I don't see it getting better anyway going forward. Now, the caveat to that I continue to throw out there is like, Giannis at this point, well, by the end of this road trip, if I remember correctly, will have missed like half of the Bucks games that they have played so far this season.
Yeah.
So like that does play on the record that they do have, because again, this was a team constructed to be put around Giannis. Without Giannis, we said it before the season even started. If Giannis misses large stretches of the season, the Bucks are going to be in trouble. Like we knew that before we even saw it in play. Seeing it, it might be like even more jarring in person of like, dang, like I thought it would be a little bit of a struggle, but I didn't expect it to be this much of a struggle.
I mentioned real quickly, when it started and we saw all the numbers that showed, hey, with Giannis on the floor so far this season, they're playing at a 58-win pace. With him off, they're a 14-win pace team. You looked at it and you're like, okay, that's a little extreme. And then you've seen these games unfold and think, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not at all. And that's where I'm at with this team, where it's like, I can get it, but like, I keep coming back to like, for me, what I hope is that at least the season plays out. Like at least just play the season out. Let's see where that goes. Yeah. And then the summer, let's reevaluate there for a few different reasons. Because if he does decide like, this is not where I want to be anymore, for the health of the Bucks franchise going forward, I feel like the deal they can get in the summer could be a bit better than whatever they can get in season from.
I don't know about that.
Really?
Yeah, because you're going to have more value in season because of the urgency that comes along. It opens up more teams in the off season because of, this CBA makes it difficult for a number of teams. So like it brings more people to the table in the off season, but I don't know that those teams that like for example, right now, I am all but willing to say there is no chance the Knicks can trade for Giannis within season because of the constraints they're up against. They're hard capped at the first apron. They can't take back more money than they send out. They don't have any player that's making as much money as Giannis. And it becomes messy for the New York Knicks, for example. So if it goes into the offseason, they could become a player, but still, what is it that you would be getting from the Knicks, even in a multi-team deal? That would ultimately be the case where they flip one of those guys that's a win-now player elsewhere, you get those assets. In that sense, it opens up more teams. I still think if it was an in-season deal, it's a team that says, look, it's out there for the taking right now. Look at the East. The Cavs are in shambles. We don't really buy into the Pistons. The Knicks have some staying power. We think if we had Giannis, we're at that level and we can win right now. And then who knows? Like you also can't live your life in fear and say, well, the Oklahoma City Thunder are out there, so why even bother? Like
you never know what's
injuries happen. Right. You don't know what happens along the way to the playoffs and in the playoffs. So I do think it's more value in season. That being said, I don't see an in-season trade happening.
Yeah, I want as many bidders to the table as possible. If it gets to that point, I want what's best for the Milwaukee Bucks franchise going forward, ultimately. And again, my hope is that continues to involve Giannis Antetokounmpo going forward. But if he chooses not to, like, I won't have any hard feelings against Giannis about it. The only way the feelings start to become different, and as you can see with just reaction to the comments that he made before the game against the Raptors,
is if you make it.
Exactly. If you continue to draw it out. And honestly, I don't know Giannis. We all know that Giannis keeps things very close to the chest, close to the vest, but it feels like he doesn't want to be a bad guy. And sometimes when you fight so hard not to do something, you can unintentionally just become what it is that you're hoping you're not going to be. And like I said before, like I don't want him to get to a Brett Favre level. I don't even want to get to like the Aaron Rodgers level that it was before Aaron left Green Bay himself. Like I don't want it to be that type of situation if it gets to that point. So ultimately, like, I just want clarity. I would love for things to be spoken about as clearly as possible going forward, but we might not get that. And that's the other reality of it. Like, this just might be what it is until we get to February 5th. And then after that, it is what it is because the trade deadline has come and gone. You now know what it is. But unless the Bucks start reeling off some wins consistently, I don't think this is going anywhere. If anything, it's just going to continue to get louder and louder and louder.
No, and we've seen nothing to suggest they are going to reel off some wins consistently. One final piece to wrap up that exact quote and what it could potentially mean And then the other thing, like the elephant in the room of a room full of elephants now, is the timeline has been adjusted for the Bucks and what that means for Giannis and everyone else involved. We'll get into that conversation next. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take stress out of your payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that managing your simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, so there's no surprise charges at the end of the month. Their automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits save you hours every week. And knowing you can reach certified HR experts anytime provides you real peace of mind. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/LockedOnNBA and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/LockedOnNBA. One more time, that's gusto.com/LockedOnNBA. And as we've mentioned, Camille, if you want to get in with this exclusive club, you're living your team every day, take it up a level. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Bucks with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month, or save and get $50. Get the full year for $50. To sign up, just find the URL. It's posted in the show notes. All right. What do you take that exact quote as? Like it's changing daily, or I'm straight with them, whatever that answer may be, because there's two scenarios here, right? If you are being upfront with your teammates and telling them, here's where it is. If you're honestly telling them, yeah, guys, look, I'm not gonna BS you. We're looking into exit scenarios because I just think that's best for me, my family, and my career. It's a matter of time before that gets out, right? Like the old adage of, sure, 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. So like if you're telling this, then it's a matter of time before a leak starts to occur. If Giannis has already told his teammates he's looking at this. If he's telling them, I don't know where this is coming from. I'm not looking at leaving. This isn't from me. I'm committed to here. I'm coming back at this date, and we'll get to that in a second. Let's just figure this out. And you're traded in season or you're traded in the off season. Like even if you try to spin this as, guys, this was not my doing. The Bucks traded me or my agents cooked this up. Players know how this works. Like, players know, they've been in the league. So like you run the risk then of what is, and this isn't, as important for on the court per se, but like you talk about your legacy, and he mentioned legacy again in those 25 minutes yesterday. I mean, that's part of it. If guys are like, that guy was never truthful with us and he blatantly lied to us. And some of us who are free agents and going into a big season, like told us, don't worry. And then in the off season or during the season, he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, we heard certain teammates come out and talk about it. Like Kevin Porter Jr. has been somebody very strong in his comments whenever he's been asked so far about the Giannis rumors. And I mean, the last time he was asked, he's like, I'm not answering these questions anymore. Yeah. Like he was calling it, like fake news for the most part of like, this is not what we heard from Giannis. Like, I know if things change, I will hear from him first. And until then, I'm not believing these reports. This isn't going to continue to be noise if we reel off 7-8 wins in a row, which, as you mentioned, like, let's start with 2 wins in a row. We haven't done that since the end of October. Let's start with two in a row, and then we see what happens from there. But yeah, like that relationship is important.
Yeah, Camille, next week is going to be a 1-week anniversary, or it's going to be the 2-month anniversary of back-to-back wins.
That is so true. I hope. Oh, that is so true. Yeah, that was a whole different.
Merry Christmas.
And Happy New Year to you. But yeah, I mean, it does matter. And I do believe when Giannis was talking about how much he does not like this for his teammates and how hard that can be on them, I wholeheartedly believe that he means that with everything in him, that he does not want to be a distraction in the sense that it affects other people. Like if this could be a decision that only affected him going forward, I'm sure that, he'd be okay with what's going on around him. Like, he even laughed about every time he turns TV on, he's being brought up like, I'm the hottest chick in the game right now.
Hottest, yeah.
Laughing about it. And it's like, that's Giannis.
Even threw shade at the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, like, I'm not going in New Orleans. I'm not going to New Orleans. So we know that at least. But like, for his teammates, though, I do believe that that's something that does weigh on him of like, I don't like this affecting my teammates and the jobs that they're trying to do as well, because they're all adults. They're grown with families, situations, people need to take care of themselves too. So like, we don't want that. But again, he said it during his comments too, of like, winning cures everything. Winning puts a lot, it calms everything down, because you want to have fun, and you're not having fun when you're losing games. So like, he mentioned was it the 19 season when the Bucks were just rolling? He's like, we didn't lose 2 games in a row. It was fun. Like, we didn't have the postseason we wanted, but the season was fun. And he was like, I want to get back to playing fun basketball. We'll have to see if Milwaukee can get to that.
And they did lose back-to-back games. I think they lost 3 in a row, didn't they? It was the very end of the season before they went to the bubble that they finally lost consecutive games. But yeah, I mean, that team was a death machine basically for most of the season. So yes, I mean, long story short, we did not get a whole lot of clarity you were hoping for. We saw obviously Giannis appearing on a prominent podcast that he has a close personal relationship to the day before this. And then I do wonder if that's why this was timed out, that we heard from the very next day, when I'm sure there was a lot of anticipation of, okay, we're going to get some of these answers then. And you didn't. But we didn't get the answers we hoped to get, not only on that front to clear it up, but also on the front of the timeline, where he said, this is a Soleus strain, which he dealt with leading into the playoffs 2 seasons ago. And I forget what he said the timeline was then. It was 2 months, wasn't it, before he resumed doing anything? So he confirmed it is a Soleus strain. It's not a calf strain. And yeah, it's 4 to 6 weeks, not 2 to 4, which then, begs the question of, did something change along the way? Like, was there additional imaging that was done and something else happened that let's get this looked at again, or this doesn't feel right? To go from a calf strain 2 to 4 weeks to Soleus strain 4 to 6 weeks, which I take as it's 6 weeks, maybe even more. That was notable, especially as we talk about they got to find a way to pull themselves through this without Giannis. Well, bump back that timeline even more. And here's the other thing. This brings to the end an incredible run that he had. When you look at all NBA first team, finishing in the top 4, I think, in MVP voting, that's done, because you were already butted well up against it. If this was, a 3 to 4 week injury, it meant you had 1 or 2 games to play with the rest of the season for 3 months. This is going to take him beyond the 17 games that you can miss.
Yeah, and that's disappointing, right? Because the streak that he has put together has been so impressive. And that was one of the things that I thought could be a silver lining heading into the season, of like, hey, people don't really expect much of the Milwaukee Bucks. If Giannis can stay healthy, I think he's going to put up some really monster numbers this season, because we do know the basic formula of Giannis plus shooters tends to equal really, really good results. And that's what I was hoping for, of like, hey, maybe this is an MV3 season if the narrative can get to, like, it's a great year for narrative, right? And it's still been a great year for narrative in the sense of what's bringing in eyes and views, just not the narrative that I was hoping would be around the Milwaukee Bucks right now. And if that's out the window now with this injury, because the Bucks initially listed it as like, hey, 2 to 4 weeks injury for Giannis, and hearing Giannis speak and not even mention 2 weeks, he said this is a 4 to 6 weeks type of injury. And knowing that,
to be fair, Doc said immediately, like, this is longer. I would guess 4 weeks. Yeah.
Doc,
even what, a week ago, a couple games ago, said like
he's not
close. Hasn't done anything yet. Yeah.
Which can make confusion of like, wait, how is he not close if it's 2 to 4 weeks? But when you hear the timeline is actually more in line of 4 to 6 weeks, it makes a lot more sense for the team. So ultimately, he did mention that he thought he got this injury because he kind of rushed back from that prior injury that he had. And it's an overcompensation injury, and you don't want that. So again, he is getting older. We know 31 at this point now. There's no no good reason to try to rush back if it's going to jeopardize something else in your body that's, the way you make money at this point. So the awards are cool and everything like that, but ultimately his health is the most important thing going forward. So like, don't rush it back. And it doesn't seem like he's in the mentality to be rushing back from this. Like, he understands how important it is to make sure that this particular injury is fully healed before he steps on the court, even though you can also tell he is thirsty to play some basketball right now and he's unable to.
Okay. So, I guess we'll wrap with some difficult questions, Camille. Having said that, and him acknowledging he thinks this occurred because he rushed himself back, because this team is currently 11-17. And we mentioned on the earlier show today where they sit in the standings. And at this point, a very real possibility that you come out of this road trip and all of a sudden you're one of the 3 worst teams in the league and you're just locked down there in the conference, I should say. It's still December, so it's still too early to fully lean into, well, it's time. But does that kind of frame your judgment for the rest of the season? And look, this team has massively struggled without him. We know he's not going to be back for at least 2 more weeks from where we currently sit, probably closer to 3 weeks now or 4 weeks. We have a pick this summer. We don't next summer. We got swaps after that. Like, we pay off the credit card statement with the New Orleans Pelicans next summer of 2027. Mm-hmm. But then we have this other massive bill that's coming in for the other credit card with the Blazers. So does this nudge you to say, okay, it's time. We have to lean into making sure we get a really good pick. And again, it's complicated because it's a swap, but as long as the Pelicans remain really bad, you can slide back 4 spots with other teams jumping in front of you. So I think at this point, the Bucks on average are going to be picking around 11th. You could potentially move that thing up there where we're all of a sudden talking about the lesser of those 2 picks is like the 5th or 6th pick in this draft, which by all accounts is very loaded. Does this push you to, we need to do that, and let's kill 2 birds with 1 stone by saying, let's see what we have with this guy. Let's see if Jericho Sims can develop X, Y, and Z. Let's see if Andre Jackson does have 1 last gallon of gas in the tank with this. Let's see some of these unconventional lineups with Ryan Rollins and ask him to do these types of things, because maybe it's not going to yield success in terms of wins and losses. It's going to help the player growth, and it's also going to help us get a pretty good pick this summer.
Maybe. I don't think I'm quite there yet. Although this is a draft, I keep my eye like, man, this would be a really good year to be able to have a high draft pick, just given the talent that's coming out this year into the NBA. But the reality of it is, for me, is like, things are dire. If the Bucks go 1-4 or, God forbid, 0-5 on this upcoming road trip, you're going to end the month.
If they go 1-5, it's over.
Yeah, you're looking up at the standings there. But the again, I keep saying it's like the craziest part is like the East is still so jumbled in a way where it's like, if you could put together 2 good months, you would probably still find yourself in the playoff conversation, because that's just the conversation. And on top of that too, when we hit January, there are going to be other teams who are looking at their situation as well and saying, you know what, we're also looking ahead to the 2026 draft. And then it becomes the tankathon of like, which teams are going to lose more, so on and so forth.
Well, and
so
that's
it's like,
yeah. I mean, that's the thing too, is other teams are going to start to get there. Now, I haven't fully, I don't know off the top of my head, and haven't fully looked into who has what in terms of what they owe out, because that determines a lot too in pick protections. But other teams are going to start to get there. You may have a head start on them with the way that this month has gone, or these last 2 months now, geez, and potentially this 5-game road trip as well. But that, to me, like, the hope that you had was still clinging on 2 to 4 weeks. If Giannis can come back in 3 weeks, it's not ideal, but like, you feel you're not the 11th seed. You're not the 10th seed with Giannis playing consistently. Right. Now, are you a 3 seed? No, we haven't seen enough to really convince you of that, but you're a better team than this, so you get him back, and maybe you can sneak into that 7 or 8 line because of how the season's gone so far. But now having to add to that timeline and extend it out by at least 2 weeks, that's a tough sell to me. That's what really starts to change things for the trajectory of this season with this group.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see. Like it's all on them. Like we can continue to have the conversations about this, but ultimately, I said this too with the Green Bay Packers after the Micah Parsons injury of like, no one else is gonna feel sorry for you right now. There's gonna be a lot of conversation outside the building about the way you've been performing, what people expect from you going forward. But ultimately, the people who are in that building, the players who are going to get out there on the court in this situation, on the field with the Packers, it's going to be on them of what they make of the situation going forward. How much of this outside noise can they block out? How closely can this team continue to stay together during this time period? Like, we're going to see. Maybe they can make people eat their words. We haven't seen enough on tape so far to give me confidence to say this is what they're going to do. But ultimately, what I say doesn't matter because it's about the guys who are going to hit that court. So it's on them of how the season continues to turn out. Because if we get another 2 weeks out here and you're at the bottom of the standings looking up, then decisions might start coming from the front office and other situations where the game plan changes. Because I say it often, even with tanking teams, the players who are on the court, they're not the ones who are trying to throw the game. You see it by the sub patterns. You see it by the guys who are available during the games. You see it in all other ways, but the players are always going to go out there and play. So as somebody who has enjoyed watching the Milwaukee Bucks for decades at this point, as somebody who was born and raised in Milwaukee, who went through the dark years of being ridiculed for wearing Bucks gear outside in Milwaukee at times, like, I would love to see a product on the floor that makes me want to continue to tune in and like enjoy watching the team. Like, I hope that they can find a way. They just haven't given me enough confidence with what they've put on tape so far to say that's what's going to happen. But I would love for them to prove me wrong.
We shall see here. This road trip is going to determine a lot for this team, and we'll see as we continue to hear from Giannis. If we continue to hear from him, I would imagine that will be pretty sparse here, especially we didn't hear whether or not he's going to be on the trip with this team. As Doc was pretty ambiguous about that on the most recent road game that they had in Brooklyn against the Nets, but we'll see where he's at there. But again, if you're looking for post-game commentary on the loss to the Toronto Raptors, that's its own show. So it's the one right before this. Go search that out. But this one specifically focusing on what we heard, or I guess more importantly, what we didn't hear from Giannis in his 25-minute media interview session earlier in the day on Thursday. That'll do it for this bonus edition of the show. We'll be back next week to recap the first game of that trip in Minneapolis against the Timberwolves, and still working on a plan on how we're going to attack the rest of the week, as we'd both like some time off around the holidays. I'm sure, Camille, I'll speak for you on that one. So
absolutely,
we'll see how next week is going to be handled. But that will do it for today's show. As always, thanks for tuning in to Locked On Bucks. The next show, as we just noted, is going to be the post-game recap against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Bucks so you get all of the latest episodes. If you need a last-minute gift for somebody that keeps asking what you want, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club, ad-free episodes of this show, exclusive Discord access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted. You can find the link in our episode description. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make that your second listen NBA game nights on Locked On NBA. For Camille, I'm Justin. We will talk with you guys once again next week on Locked On Bucks.